Welcome back to OTB AM this Friday morning. It is 8:58 AM and I'm joined in studio by Alan Quinlan. Alan, thanks for coming in.
No bother, Tommy. How
What's
are you?
the crack? How's your Friday morning going?
Grand. How's yours?
Going well, I think. I hope.
Little bit of panic there to start.
We're still here. We got sorted.
It's like a lucky dip. We're all just dipping in and out here, trying to chat with you.
Get through the morning, yeah. So all going well. You're all set for Christmas.
Yeah, set as I'll ever be, I suppose.
You're not like me, are you? I'm a 23rd, 24th man getting my presents.
No, I've all sorted.
You get sorted.
All done.
There's rugby this weekend. There's Pro 14. There's Interprovincials. It's Leinster Ulster tonight. Should we care? Is it worth caring about? Like, what are the teams?
I think the probably the big question mark about the Interpros are the selections and the changes. And Ulster make 14 changes for the match tonight. In the RDS, Leinster make 13 changes. Ordinarily, I think that's maybe to be expected that there's going to be some amount of changes, but it's a huge amount, and I think it's the trend probably for the next couple of weeks with the Interpros. They all play each other. When I played, I think there was a little bit of rotation even back then, but not to this extent. So part of me has an issue with it because, and in particular for Munster play Leinster in Thomond Park on the 28th of December, and we're now being told, and we have been told in the last week or two, and I think the players probably knew for a while, the internationals who are at the World Cup, that they will only feature in one of the three Interpros over the Christmas period and into the new year, and I'm disappointed with that. Leinster Munster is probably one of the biggest club games in Europe, if not the world. Now I know at different stages, if you're playing European matches, that's probably true, but I still think it's an incredible fixture. It's lost some of its bite over the years, and a lot of it is down to maybe the rotation of players and the internationals not going head-to-head against each other, and that's why it's probably lost some of the rivalry. Obviously, it's still big, whoever wins these games, and you have the bragging rights, and you're probably trying to, at this stage, impress the Irish coach going through these fixtures and try and stand out. So it does give an opportunity to a lot of young players. Someone like Tommy O'Brien starting for Leinster tonight, it's a brilliant opportunity for him. He was a superstar kind of underage player, captained the under-20s when he was 18, played in the under-20s when he was 18, captained the team. So it does give opportunities to players, but I just think it's the player welfare in Ireland, and I have to be careful what way I say this because I'm for player welfare, and the system here works very well. Players play less games, and if you look at someone like Owen Farrell and Johnny Sexton over the last number of years, I know Sexton's had these injuries, but if you compare the amount of minutes that they've both played season on season, it's Johnny Sexton is far less, even if he wasn't injured, and that's the benefit of it having here. But for me, I just think that Leinster-Munster game is one that's the one they all should be playing.
I can tell.
Yeah, that's the one they all should be playing, and it's the biggest fixture of the Interpros.
Like for fans at Christmas, a lot of people are going to want to go to these games as well.
Yeah, and that's sold out. That's sold out. That's sold out in Thomond Park. It sells out every year. Leinster seem to get the short straw that they have to travel down. This game has more often been on Stephen's Day. And Leinster always seem to be the ones that have to travel down to Thomond Park, and particularly in the last number of years. So you could argue the place is sold out. Everyone wants to go there, but I think you're in kind of dangerous territory if that continues to happen.
Yeah,
it dilutes the fixture, and it's always been a massive fixture. Is
it a case that the fixtures, the Interpros, are just scheduled at the wrong time in the calendar? Is it that they're sandwiched between?
No, I think they've all. Yeah, they are. They are, but I think having the players, the internationals, just play one of these fixtures is disappointing. I think when I played, which isn't that long ago, it sounds like it's a long time ago.
It's not that long.
But I think you probably would play two or be involved in two or the three. So you could only play 1.5 games, but you'd be on the bench or you'd start if you're in the Irish squad. And that kind of rotation happened where half the players played one, half played the next, and that rotation went on off the bench as well. So this year, probably for the first time ever, you're getting a clear protocol that for 2 weeks, they're getting a full break for that. I know the World Cup was on, and it's there was a lot of preparation all summer and stuff like that. But it's just disappointing that that's happening. But in saying that, as I said, Leinster's perceived second string could probably make the playoffs to the Pro 14 anyway without any of their internationals.
You name-checked Tommy O'Brien there. He's a centre.
Yeah, he's a centre, and he's playing. Robbie Henshaw plays because obviously he didn't play a lot in the World Cup, and O'Brien played, represented Ireland under 20s, as I said, and he's a former Leinster Schools 110-metre hurdle champion, so he's an incredible athlete, very, very powerful and good defensively as well. So it's another opportunity for him. And if you look at someone like
Jordan Larmour stood out in the Interpro fixtures last Christmas, didn't he? Am I right about that, or was it the year before that he?
It was the year before he got that outstanding try against Munster in Thomond Park, and of course it is an opportunity for younger players to stand out and maybe put themselves on the map. But and that's the benefit of maybe the rotation. But there's two sides to it, like I said. The fans want to see the internationals, and there is a benefit of bringing through young players. And you look at someone like Will Connors being brought into the Leinster squad this year, playing matches, standout performance against Connacht and Glasgow away, and he's earned himself a call-up to Andy Farrell's squad. So
his stock take, as it's been put.
Pardon?
They've called it the stock take, is 45-man squad here that we have.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of players there.
We might just look at this for a second.
Keelan Doris is another one. I think he's one that kind of jumps out, and after the game last weekend, I thought he's someone that'll come into the selectors' minds as regards, possibly being in that 23. Ultan Delan back in, Caelan Blade, John Cooney.
I know we were talking about it earlier in the week. Cooney's in the mix there to be your starting.
Yeah, and Will Addison, Billy Burns as well. And Ulster have been going well in the last number of weeks. Tom O'Toole, another opportunity. So there's a lot of players in there that have a brilliant opportunity to be in that environment. I think Jack Carty would be very disappointed that he's not in it after being selected in the World Cup. But there's redemption for some guys. Like I said, Ultan Delan is someone who I rate highly. I think he's an outstanding player, and he's kind of put himself back in the mix. So there's a lot of players there.
Rob Kearney was admitted?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one for him, for Rob, because I think he served Leinster and Ireland so well. He's still a top quality player. I think probably some players when become the fall guy, and he rightly or wrongly I think it's not all his fault, and he didn't have a bad World Cup, but I think the attack keeps coming up, and maybe the way Ireland played during the year, and Larmour, in fairness, he played so well for Leinster in the last couple of weeks at full back, and he's doing well in the air. So I think it's probably a change of the guard, but the attitude, and I was speaking on Breakfast Radio this morning about the attitude and discipline and desire and passion of the Arsenal players at the moment and other Premier League footballers would really disappoint and frustrate me if I was in that type of dressing room where players haven't got that desire and they don't show a real passion for what they're trying to do.
Have you been there before? Have you seen that in the dressing room anywhere?
I've seen certain players and certain guys, and I don't want to name check anyone because it's unfair, who've had periods where their attitude wasn't great, and you just get left behind. They get left behind. They don't get picked. The wheel keeps turning, and the high performance and the drive from the senior players and people who achieve incredible things just drive that forward, and that's true leadership and stuff. And Rob Kearney, it's a reaction now that you want to see from him, and it's not about setting the world on fire as regards, playing outstandingly well, but I think it's his attitude, and I know the guy, and I know he's incredibly positive, determined player. And I always remember Roy Keane telling us the story about Laurent Blanc coming into United when he spoke to us in Munster about, somebody asked a question about, who would have impressed him to train and their attitude and all that kind of stuff. And he mentioned him because I think Laurent Blanc had only a couple of months left in his contract, and he was more or less kind of cast aside and wasn't going to start.
He was in his 30s when he joined United.
Yeah, he was, and he wasn't going to start very few games. But I remember Roy Keane telling us about the way he turned up every day. First in, trained the house down, attitude, encouragement, and that sets a tone. That actually makes a difference to the whole environment.
Blanc was 36 when he joined United.
Yeah, he was, so he had achieved an incredible. Easily, Tommy could have down tools and said, look, sure, it's the last few months, I'm getting a nice salary here, it's nice environment, I'm just going to relax. But he probably trained harder and as hard as the players who were starting on the team. And Keane, spoke about that, and his standards as regards turning up and stuff. And I think Rob Kearney will be that kind of player. He will, no matter what, no matter how long he plays for. And who's to say he won't force his way back into the Irish squad?
So what you're saying is the door's not shut?
I wouldn't say the door's shutting him, no. But unfortunately for him, it's the attack has been questioned, and you need probably a little bit more youthful exuberance there. And Larmour has shown that, and that's the way Andy Farrell has gone. So,
but Farrell needed to look like he was making a couple of changes as well. Like, I know it's a big squad, and probably going to see a lot more changes when it comes to Six Nations. But he probably needed to freshen it up.
Yeah, he does. And look, it's a change of the guard. Rob Kearney's been around a long, long time, and no player goes on forever. And again, that's not saying he's completely finished. I know he'll have a big say in that, and it's up to the player himself. He's a year left in his contract, and it depends what he does at the end of the season. So he may play on, he may move abroad.
Sure.
I don't know. But unfortunately for him, it's that door was closed. It's up to him to try and force it open again. But as you said, Andy Farrell, he will need to make changes. He will need to freshen things up a little bit. And there's some exciting players who are going to get an opportunity
putting their hands up,
being in that squad.
That was an interesting aside there on Arsenal. And I don't want you to name any names about players who you've seen who you think have perhaps had a poor attitude in the dressing room when you've been in there. Like, one man who's in the news this morning is Paul Pogba, and I'm not saying he's down in tools, but he hasn't been around, and there's been little bits and pieces on social media saying that he's grand, essentially. Like, he's over in Dubai.
There's a video of him doing dancing.
There was a video of him on a bike as well. So you don't know the ins and outs of it, but the perception is that Paul Pogba is a bit of a Mayfainer, you might say. And I know, look, when we're talking about rugby and soccer players, there's a detachment about Premier League players.
Well, I tell you, Tommy, the biggest fear as a rugby player, and in my time and probably now, is if you don't play well, you get dropped. The potential then, your contract is up at the end of the year, you might have a year and a half left in your contract or whatever. You're getting a year what they're getting a week now. As a soccer player, they don't care. They're signed up for 3, 4, 5 years. They'll move on to another club. And maybe if that was the case in rugby, maybe you would have more of that scenario where fellas do down tools and don't push themselves, don't do the extra training sessions. I remember one time Paul O'Connell sending out a text message to us on a Saturday morning that we were in the Irish squad. We had a weekend off, and text message came through, anyone interested in going into doing a fitness session in UL on a Saturday morning. And we had a hard week's training already done, and it was a block where it was a block of kind of fitness training that we were doing with Ireland, and we weren't playing at the weekend. So my attitude straight away was, I've just done an incredibly hard week and I've pushed myself to the limit, and this is my weekend off and I want to relax. And then I thought, well, if he's going in, someone else will go in, and then someone else will go in, and someone will get the edge, and I'll miss out. And, within the space of a couple of hours, or an hour or two, whatever it was, there was 8 of us probably down in UL doing a hard fitness session with no fitness coach, and we killed ourselves for an hour. And I remember that's the kind of stuff that I was being player driven, and look, it's not for me to say about what Premier League soccer players should think.
We're only speculating here,
but you just get a sense that, and you just get a sense that Pogba, Lingard, these kind of guys.
It's the Arsenal dressing room as well. You're seeing a lot of problems emanated from there.
It is, but it's just sometimes when you go near that social media scene and you're putting up videos of yourself, you're leaving yourself wide open if you don't perform and play well. And I remember Keane saying that about Jesse Lingard and Paul Pogba, that they're not his type of fellas and players. And I know the world is different. Yeah, the world is different now, with social media, and people can have a bit of fun in it. But if you're posting stuff up on videos of yourself dancing around dressing rooms and stuff like that, and you play shit the week after, well, you're leaving yourself wide open. So there is a case sometimes of keeping the head down, just work hard and get a balance between, showing that that over-exuberant celebration on and off the field, and getting it right, because you have to have fun on the sports field as well. And
the two players though we've name checked when we're talking about these atmosphere or these.
There's probably loads. They're in every club.
Paulie and Roy Keane are two of the most exceptional characters in Irish sport.
Yeah,
in the last
but
20 years.
Rog was like that. Dricko was like that. Johnny Sexton was like that. You know, some people were different in the way they spoke and said it, but you know, I was in a dressing room of high achievers, of someone like John Hayes didn't say anything, but I tell you, if he did open his mouth and you weren't pulling your weight, you'd know about it, because you need to know your lineouts right, or you need to make sure you're scrummaging right, or whatever segment of the session. And
Purely player driven, and it's you know, I know you've been surrounded by these players throughout your playing career, but like, have you ever sat in a dressing room and gone, do you know, we're off it at the minute?
I've sat in a dressing room and known that we're not playing well and that things are going bad and we're forcing it, but I've never sat in a dressing room where I've looked around and people have infuriated me because their attitude or desire or passion or their work ethic isn't right. I've never been in that dressing room. I've met, you know, there's always been individuals at times who've scenario. You know what I mean? His attitude was 100%. He had his game face on when he went out on the pitch. He was good fun off it. And, you know, that's, you just love being around people like that, because they actually wake you up sometimes when you're a bit kind of lackadaisical around your training, and you go, like the text message.
As Keane.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? Those guys in the dressing rooms are phenomenal, and they're really important, and they may never play. When we won the Heineken Cup in '06, I think, you know, the most important thing for us was there was who saw who me. You need a good leader like Klopp. Klopp is probably the one that has done a brilliant job with Liverpool. Guardiola, you know, there's many great managers, I suppose. I thought Pochettino was doing an incredible job with Spurs,
but he did for a number of years.
He did, and maybe every manager and player has their time and stuff like that. But for a manager to have to motivate players and, you know, stop them sulking, and, you know, you see Ozil coming off for Arsenal there last week, and, you know, he's sulking. his team are down, he's sulking.
I think ago.
Is
If he gets in, yeah.
you don't want to discard people, but I think you give everyone a
That's the
chance,
talk.
but you set your own standards, and you start clearing them out, and if they don't kind of live up to that standard.
So, Leinster Ulster tonight, we're looking out for Tommy O'Brien. Is there anyone else we're looking out for tonight?
Well, like I said, Will Connors again. I think he's
in the squad for Andy Farrell's squad, yeah.
Yeah, he's in the squad, and I think himself and Scott Penny coming back as well, that
Okay.
back row and Max Deegan, so...
That's a good back row.
Yeah, it is, yeah, and Harry Byrne starting at fly half for them. Bill Johnson for love to see.
Munster.
You don't get the team till we don't get the team till lunchtime, so it's a tricky one. But I think Connacht will be less affected, obviously, by
players.
Yeah, Jack Carty and Bundy Aki were only 2 away for them. So Andy Friend is probably in the strongest position for these Interpros in the next few weeks.
Before I let you go, Ron McGarrett was on last week, and he picked out Keane Healy as his player of the decade in Irish rugby. We had Brian O'Driscoll in yesterday. I'm not sure if Brian agreed with Ronan, but we'll have a look at who he picked out as his player of the decade.
It was a real shame that I didn't. I would have loved to have been able to finish provincially as well with him, because he's an outstanding player. He is a really, really outstanding player, and you look at the importance he has to Ireland and to Leinster still.
Yeah.
10 years on from his debut, and those big moments, obviously the drop goal in Paris. He's being a World Player of the Year, and I think he was comfortably World Player of the Year last year. He was a joy to play with, and I've seen even a development and an evolution of his game. And a steel your mental toughness. He's one of the best pros I've ever come across too. So
that's a bit that's maybe a little bit underrated, because when he comes through first, he's kind of
jowly.
Yeah, very jowly. he looks like someone who hasn't grown into himself just yet. But whatever about the physical development, you can see that. It's the way his game changes. It's the understanding. It's the kind of constant study.
He's encyclopedic in his knowledge of... He's a very smart guy too, intellectually smart, but rugby-wise, being able to remember anything. So you could call back a play that you've done a year or 2, 3, 4, and he'd remember exactly what you're talking about. It's quite frightening.
Brian O'Driscoll there on Johnny Sexton. Alan, you were looking perplexed there. I kind of landed this one on you. You should be ready. All we're talking about is the bloody decade.
Yeah,
Who's your player, your Irish rugby player of the decade?
It's probably Sexton, and I'm picking 2 of them, Murray.
Okay.
I just think the contribution that they've made, the consistency, I know the last few months it's been skewed a little bit,
sure.
But I just think both those players have been outstanding for Ireland. Rog mentioned Keane Healy. I think he's been shown incredible durability as well, and high level of performance. He's had his injuries too, a couple of serious ones.
Rob Kearney is obviously another player for
Kearney
for
as well. Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's his consistency in the way he bounced back, kind of when he was in probably in a little bit spot of bother around selection in Chicago. So there's a number of them, but you didn't give me much time on this one, Tommy.
Sorry, Quinny, we'll go with that. That's perfect. I know you got to get out now and sort the parking.
Yeah.
You give me a shout if you get clamped, will you?
Yeah, I will do.
Hopefully they don't go after you.